Princess Thalira was bored. The alien palace was quiet, too quiet for her taste. Her royal guards stood still like statues, and the golden halls echoed her footsteps. The grand festival had ended, and now there was nothing left to do except watch. Diplomats bow or nobles argue. She wanted something different, something fun, something dangerous, and that's when she saw him, the human. He stood near the edge of the garden, looking awkward, like he didn't belong. His name was Corporal Jace Wren, a soldier from Earth who had helped their world during a recent spacequake. His face was calm, but his eyes kept moving, studying everything. Humans were still rare on her planet. Some aliens feared them, others laughed at them. Thalira just found them interesting. With a playful smirk, she walked toward him. "Human," she said, folding her arms. "Are you as brave as your stories say?" Jace blinked. "I try to be, Princess," she grinned. "Good. I want to show you something." Without waiting for an answer, she led him down long hallways, past statues of her ancestors, and through guards who didn't dare question her. She stopped in front of a huge metal door, cold, dark, and ancient. "This is the royal vault," she whispered. "No one comes in here without permission." Then, "Why are we here?" "Because I'm bored," she said, laughing, "and I want to see what happens when you touch something special." The door opened with a deep, grinding sound. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Broken weapons, cracked shields, and forgotten relics lay scattered. But in the center of the room stood a tall metal suit, covered in strange carvings. It didn't look like normal armor, it looked alive. Thalira pointed. "That belonged to Zinnik, the First Flame, the greatest warrior in our history. He vanished during the Void War. Some say he became a god. Others say his spirit still lives inside the armor. No one wears it." Jace asked. "No one can," she replied. "The armor rejects all who try. Even my father, the Emperor, failed. But you," she paused, tilting her head. "You're different, not from this world. So maybe, just maybe," Jace hesitated. "You want me to put it on?" "Just try, it'll be funny." Jace stepped forward. The armor loomed taller than him. Like it was watching, he reached out. As soon as his fingers touched the surface, the armor pulsed with light. Thalira gasped. The carvings glowed red. Then, gold. The armor opened, like it was breathing. Metal moved, shifting and wrapping around Jace's body. He tried to step back, but it was too late. The armor had already claimed him. A deep hum filled the vault. The walls shook. Sparks flew. "Jace!" Thalira shouted. His eyes turned bright silver. His body stiff as the armor locked into place. For a moment, silence fell. Then, with a sharp crack, the vault lights exploded and Jace fell to one neat eye. "I can't move," he whispered. "It's inside my head." Thalira rushed to him. "What's happening?" He looked at her, eyes still glowing. "I hear a voice. It's speaking, but I don't understand the words." Before she could answer, palace alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Guards stormed in with weapons drawn. The Emperor's voice echoed through the hallway. "Seal the vault. No one leaves until we understand what has happened." Jace stood slowly. The armor's plates adjusted, forming perfectly around his body like it had waited for him for centuries. "What did you do?" One guard growled. Thalira stepped forward. "I asked him to try it on. It was a joke." The guard raised his blaster. "That armor hasn't moved in 1,000 years. You think this is funny?" But the armor moved again, this time on its own. It raised Jace's hand, pointing at a wall. A symbol appeared on the stone, glowing with the same light. The guards backed away in fear. "It's he choosing him," Thalira whispered. "The armor chose him." The ground trembled. A voice echoed from the armor, ancient and powerful. "The flame stirs. The final war approaches." Everyone stared at Jace. And Jace was no longer just a visitor. That he was something more. Something terrifying. Something legendary. The joke had turned into prophecy, and Thalira's heart pounded as she realized what she'd just unleashed. He didn't remember falling asleep, but Jace woke on a cold stone floor. The armor still clung to him tight, warm, alive. He moved his fingers slowly, and the metal shifted with him like it was part of his skin. Glowing lines still pulsed down his arms, matching the slow thudding beat inside his chest. He was no longer in the vault. Jace looked around. The walls were dark, smooth, and humming with strange energy. There were no guards, no lights. Just a floating orb above his head that cast a soft golden glow. He wasn't alone. Princess Thalira stood nearby, pacing in silence. She looked different now. The playful spark in her eyes was gone. Her arms were folded tight, her face pale. "You've been unconscious for 2 hours," she said softly, without turning. "They were afraid to move you. They thought the armor might react." Jace sat up slowly. "Where are we?" "The memory chamber. Below the palace. My father ordered it sealed centuries ago. But the armor opened a hidden gate beneath the vault floor and dropped us both in here." Jace's heart raced. "So it took us here?" Thalira nodded. "And the armor's been whispering, even to me." Jace stood. The armor responded again, smooth, silent, shifting with ease. His reflection flashed in the black walls. He barely looked human anymore. "I don't understand," he said. "It called me Flame." "Why?" She walked toward him, slower, now like she was approaching a dangerous animal. "Because it's not just armor. It's a relic from the First Flame War. That armor belonged to the warrior who lit the final beacon that saved our galaxy. But no alien since has been able to awaken it, until now. But I'm not some ancient hero." "Maybe not," she said, "but the armor thinks you are." Suddenly, the chamber shuddered. A deep tremble rolled through the floor. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a long dark hallway lit by flickering red torches. The orb above. Their heads drifted forward, leading the way. Thalira didn't move. "Should we follow it?" Jace asked. "It's not a question of should," she replied. "This room has no exits. The armor is guiding us. We follow or we wait for my father's guards to break in and drag you away." Jace took a deep breath and stepped into the corridor. The walls around them glowed with symbols, some familiar, some shifting like living fire. He could read them, even though he didn't know how. "Bearer of flame, blood of the forgotten, voice of the sleeping fire." Jace's skin tingled. These words, they're not human, not your language either. "But I can read them." Thalira stared at him. "That's impossible." "I know." The corridor ended in a wide chamber, shaped like a dome, with a massive statue at the center. The statue was of a warrior, his face hidden by a helmet, his hands gripping a burning spear. At the base of the statue, a plaque flickered with a dull light. As they approached, the plaque lit up fully and a voice echoed through the room. It was the same voice Jace had heard earlier, deep and ancient. "The trial awaits. Step forward, flame bearer, and prove you are worthy." Jace froze. "Trial." Before either of them could react, the ground split open. A stone platform rose from the floor, and on it stood a creature made of fire and stone, massive, with wings made of ash and eyes like molten lava. Thalira screamed and backed away. "That's the flame serpent. It's a myth." The serpent roared, and the heat in the chamber rose instantly. Jace's armor locked into place, shielding his face and covering his hands with bladed gauntlets. The armor had made its decision. Jace didn't feel scared, he felt ready. The serpent lunged. Jace leapt aside, armor enhancing his speed. The platform cracked under the beast's weight. His body moved without thinking, guided by instincts that weren't his. The armor taught him as he fought, its memory fusing with his. He slid under the serpent's swing and slashed upward, striking its neck. The blow didn't kill it, but the serpent howled in pain. Thalira watched from behind the statue, wide-eyed. The human was glowing, his movements too fast, too sharp for anything she had ever seen. She didn't know what was more terrifying, the creature made of fire, or the human who was learning to kill it. Jace dodged again, then ran up the serpent's body, using its scales as footholds. At the top, he stabbed deep into its burning skull. The armor flared with golden fire, and with one final cry, the serpent collapsed into ash. Silence returned. The chamber dimmed. The plaque lit up once more. "The flame remembers. The bond is complete." Jace stood in the ash, panting. He looked at Thalira. She stared back, speechless. "I didn't know I could do that," he said, voice shaking. "I didn't know anyone could," she whispered. Suddenly, a second voice echoed in the room, different from before. "Power has returned." The signal has been sent. The torches died out. The glowing orb vanished. They were left in the dark, and far above the palace, in the deep silence of space. Something stirred in reply. A cold wind moved through the palace corridors, even though the air was sealed. Guards whispered. Servants walked with their eyes down. And the emperor had locked himself inside the high tower since the event. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the human had been cursed by the gods. Others believed he was the god. But Thalira knew the truth was something much stranger. She sat alone in the royal archive chamber, a forbidden place lined with scrolls older than memory. Light from a floating lamp shimmered over her face as she flipped through brittle parchment, her fingers shaking. None of these scrolls were meant for her, but the armor had changed everything. Jace sat nearby, silent, staring at his hands. The armor had finally loosened its grip slightly, allowing him to move and breathe more easily. But it still pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, always there, always watching. I found something, Thalira said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. Jace looked up. What is it? She turned the scroll toward him. This isn't just armor. It's a living relic tied to a power source called the First Flame Core. According to this, only one who carries the spark of the forgotten bloodline can awaken it. Meaning, she hesitated. You're not just wearing a weapon, Jace. The armor is a test, and you passed something it's been waiting for centuries. Jace frowned. But I'm human. How could I be part of any ancient bloodline from your world? She unrolled another scroll. The text shifted as they stared, and Jace blinked. In surprise, he could read it without help. Thalira noticed. You see it, don't you? It's changing, he said, shaping into words I can understand. That's not language, she whispered. It's memory recognition. The scroll is responding to you like the armor did. As he read the lines, the chamber grew darker. The flames dimmed, and a soft vibration buzzed through the walls. The text revealed an ancient truth. The first flame was not born of one world, but many. It was a union between species, a forgotten pact, one that had been buried after the Void War to prevent panic. The first flame's last bearer, Jace read aloud, was not fully alien. He was part human. Thalira's heart stopped. That's not possible. Humanity didn't even have space travel when that war happened. Or maybe that's just what history told you. A crystal shard on the wall glowed suddenly, casting a soft blue light. The armor responded at once, pulling Jace's body toward the light. He reached out without thinking and touched the shard. The world went white. Jace gasped as visions poured into his mind. He saw a battlefield of stars, massive ships burning, creatures made of shadow devouring planets, and at the center of it, all a figure in golden armor, the same one he wore, fighting alongside warriors of different worlds. His voice boomed across time, calling for unity, for sacrifice, for the light to never die. Then he saw something else, a great seal being forged, and before it closed, the warrior placed the armor inside it. A message whispered, "Only my kin will hear this call again." Jace stumbled back, eyes wide. I saw him, the original flame bearer, and he looked like me. Thalira stared at him. Breath caught in her throat. Then maybe you were never supposed to come here by accident. Before they could speak again, the crystal behind them cracked. A low, humming sound grew louder, shaking the walls. A message flickered in the air, formed from light and dust. To the one who wears my skin, I am your past. But the flame must rise again. The enemy stirs in the dark, and the flame core must not sleep any longer. You must awaken it. The message vanished. Silence returned. What is the flame core? Jace asked. Thalira swallowed. A power source left by the first flame, hidden at the edge of our galaxy. They say it's alive. It powers more than weapons. It chooses kings. Then we find it, Jace said firmly. You don't understand. That place was sealed 1,000 years ago. It's buried in the ruins of Aerith Kai, guarded by a death storm and patrolled by creatures that never die. I don't care. Thalira looked at him. Jace's eyes glowed faintly. I don't want this armor. I didn't ask for any of this. But now that it's chosen me, I need answers. I need to know why. And if the flame core has them, I'll walk through fire to reach it. She nodded slowly. Then I'm coming with you. Why? Because, she said with a small smile, you're not the only one who wants to know the truth. And besides, you'll need someone who knows how to steal a starship. Jace raised an eyebrow. You know how to steal a ship, I'm a princess, she said proudly. I know how to steal anything, above them unnoticed. A security drone recorded everything and transmitted it silently to the Emperor. And far away, in the cold black space beyond the stars, something ancient opened its eyes. The night was thick with storm clouds as the stolen royal shuttle soared through the skies of Ythra. It was sleek, fast, and equipped with stealth plating that hid it from palace radars. Jace sat in the co-pilot's seat, his armored fingers clenched on the armrest. Thalira handled the controls like she'd done it 100 times. Maybe she had. You sure you're a princess? Jace asked, eyeing her. She smirked. I was bored a lot growing up. They flew in silence for a while. Beneath them stretched miles of alien terrain forests that glowed blue, rivers that shimmered under lightning. Ahead, the great stone desert of Erithkai waited, hiding secrets under its dead sands. Jace had spent years in battle, but nothing felt like this. Not just because of the armor still pulsing softly on his skin, but because the galaxy had suddenly grown larger than he ever imagined. We're being followed, Thalira said calmly. Jace tensed. What? 2 ships on our trail? Not. Palace guards their hunters. Jace looked out the side window. A red glow blinked in the distance. Then another. You know them. She nodded once. My father's secret order. They're called the Black Talons, trained to hunt rebels, traitors and those who wear forbidden things. Let me guess, Jace muttered. I'm all 3 now. The ship jolted as blaster fire hit the rear thruster. Thalira slammed a button, sending the shuttle into a steep dive. Jace's stomach dropped as the world flipped. They want to disable us, not kill us, she said. At least, not yet. They're welcome to try. The armor lit up as Jace moved to the back of the ship. Panels opened as he passed, weapons revealing themselves. The armor remembered this ship probably from one of the old wars. He grabbed the first plasma rifle and opened the rear hatch. Wind roared in. To sleek hunter ships closed in fast, engines howling like wolves. Jace aimed. The armor guided his hand. A soft pulse in his mind told him when to shoot. He fired. Once, the first hunter ship spun out of control, struck clean across its side wing. The second veered sharply, sending red fire toward the shuttle's exposed engines. Jace Thalira shouted, We've got 20 seconds until we crash. Jace didn't respond. He stepped out onto the metal ramp, balancing himself as the wind threatened to throw him into the night. The second hunter ship came around. Again, he jumped. Thalira gasped as Jace leapt off the shuttle and landed squarely on the enemy ship's cockpit. The impact bent the outer frame, and the startled pilot screamed as Jace slammed his armored fist through the glass. The ship spiraled. Jace pushed off at the last second, falling through open air until the shuttle caught him in mid-drop, its auto-grab beam locking him in. The hatch slammed shut. He landed on his feet, unharmed. Thalira blinked. You're insane. He shrugged. The armor told me I'd survive. Remind me not to argue with it. The rest of the flight was quiet. The hunters had retreated. Jace sat again, this time in silence. His heart beat hard, but not from fear. He felt alive. The desert approached. Erithkai wasn't like the rest of Ythra. It was a cursed place, ancient, buried, dangerous. The storm above it never cleared. Winds screamed like voices. The sky flickered as they passed through the edge of the storm. The ship rattling under the pressure. There, Thalira pointed. In the distance, under jagged cliffs and shifting sand, stood the ruins, twisted towers half buried in dust, strange machines frozen in time, and a stone gate covered in flame symbols. The shuttle landed roughly on a flat rock plateau. They stepped out together. Jace's armor adjusted to the heat instantly. Thalira wrapped a scarf around her head. Lightning cracked above as they approached the stone gate. It was covered in carvings. Some looked like stars, others like wounds in the rock. Jace touched the door. A soft glow spread from his palm. The carvings lit up, and the gate groaned open. They stepped inside. It wasn't a tomb, as some had claimed. It was a cathedral. Massive pillars stretched up into darkness. Floating embers drifted through the air like fireflies. The deeper they walked, The quieter the storm outside became like the ruins were swallowing sound. In the center of the chamber stood a crystal pedestal. It was cracked, ancient but pulsing faintly. "The flame core," Thalira whispered. Jace stepped forward. As he did, a circle of energy formed beneath his feet. The armor lit up completely, glowing brighter than ever before. Then without warning he screamed. Visions hit him like a tidal wave. He saw the stars burning, a million voices crying out. Great beasts with mouths of shadow devouring entire planets. And at the center of it all the same figure from his earlier vision. But this time, the warrior fell, pierced through the chest, by a black blade. The armor had failed once before. The vision faded, and Jace collapsed to his knees, gasping. Thalira ran to him. "What did you see?" He looked at her, eyes wide, voice trembling. "It's coming back, the enemy, the same one they sealed away. And this time there may not be another chance to stop it." In the far corners of the ruins, strange shapes began to stir. Something had heard the flame awaken, and it was coming. Something shifted in the dust. Jace's armor flared again, reacting to a presence unseen. He slowly stood, eyes fixed on the shadows beyond the ancient stone columns. Thalira stepped closer, her hand on the small blaster at her hip, though they both knew it wouldn't be enough. The air in the ruins was suddenly heavy, like the building itself had started to breathe. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Jace nodded. It wasn't sound, it was a pressure in his mind. A slow, rhythmic beat, like footsteps, but inside his skull. Then a voice followed it. Not a whisper, a growl. "You open the core, little spark. Now the dark will follow." A scream tore through the stillness, not human, not animal, just wrong. Out of the shadows came creatures made of smoke and bone, eyes glowing violet, mouths filled with rows of needle-sharp teeth. Jace pulled Thalira behind him as his armor reacted instantly, blades forming along his forearms, heat building in the palm of his hand. One of the creatures leapt toward him, fast as lightning. He met it midair with a strike that sliced it in two. It dissolved into ash before hitting the ground. More emerged, dozens of them. Thalira fired, striking one in the head, but the shot passed through like it was missed. "They're not real," she said, panicked. "They're real enough to kill," Jace replied, throwing her behind a broken pillar as he charged into the swarm. The armor fought with precision and memory. Jace barely had to think. He was faster than he had ever been, stronger, sharper. But for every creature he cut down, two more took its place. They weren't attacking blindly. They were testing him. Then came the rumble. A tall figure stepped through the ruined archway, taller than any living creature should be. It had armor like obsidian and a crown of jagged horns. Where its eyes should be, there were only burning holes. It raised one clawed hand, and the beasts froze. The figure pointed at Jace. "You are not him," it said, its voice vibrating through the walls. "You are broken, unfinished." Jace stepped forward, chest heaving. "And you're afraid." The figure laughed deep and cruel. "Afraid? No. Curious. I have devoured 1,000 stars. Little flame, you are a spark in a storm. I know who you are," Jace said. "You fought the first flame. He sealed you here. And now his blood walks again," the figure hissed. "But you are not ready. Your flame is weak. Let me show you what burns brighter." With a swipe of its hand, a black spear formed from the air and shot toward Jace. He dodged barely in time. It struck the stone behind him and shattered it into dust. Jace dashed forward, striking hard. Their blades met, and a shockwave blasted through the chamber, throwing Thalira to the floor. The fight that followed was chaos, metal clashing with shadow, flame against darkness. Jace pushed harder than he ever had before. The armor screamed, with heat and memory guiding his strikes, blocking the deadly claws. But the enemy was ancient, older than memory, born from the void between stars. Finally, Jace was knocked back, sliding across the floor. The figure raised its hand to finish him, but Thalira stood between them. She didn't speak. She just fired her blaster straight into the creature's chest. It roared, not in pain, but in surprise. The beam had no real effect, but the act bought Jace the moment he needed. He leapt from the ground and drove his fist, now a glowing lance of flame, straight into the creature's chest. The light exploded through the ruins, when the dust cleared, the figure was gone. So were the beasts, only silence remained. Jace dropped to one knee, gasping. The armor dimmed slowly, returning to its dormant state. Thalira ran to him and grabbed his arm. "Are you all right?" He nodded weakly. "He wasn't trying to kill me. Not yet." "What was he doing?" "Testing me," Jace said. "He wanted to see if I was strong enough. Because if I wasn't, he wouldn't need to worry." Thalira looked around at the shattered ruins. "Then we need to get stronger." Jace stood slowly. "No, I need to get stronger. You need to go back to your people and warn them." "No," she said firmly. "If I go back now, they'll treat me like a traitor. Or worse, they'll silence me before I speak. Then, what do we do?" She looked toward the entrance, where the sandstorm had begun to clear. "We find the rest of the beacons. The scrolls mentioned 3. This was only the first." Jace turned toward the flame core, now pulsing steadily behind them like a silent heart. "The next ones will be harder." "Good," Thalira said, brushing dust off her shoulder. "I was starting to enjoy this, unseen by either of them." High above the planet, black ships stirred in the void called by the return of the flame. And somewhere deep in the forgotten dark, the crowned shadow they'd fought stood watching through another's eyes. He smiled. "The game begins." The desert behind them was silent now, the flame core buried again beneath stone and ash. But far ahead, the stars looked sharper. Jace could feel the change not just in the air, but inside himself, like something ancient had settled in his bones. Every step felt heavier, every thought louder. The armor wasn't just guiding him anymore. It was listening. They rode a stolen glider across the jagged canyons of Yithra, using the winds to carry them far from the ruins. Thalira scanned the horizon while Jace stared upward. Above them, 3 moons drifted like watchful eyes. None of them spoke for a long while. Finally, Thalira broke the silence. "I sent out a false signal." Jace blinked. "What kind of signal?" "One that says you're dead, crushed in the ruins. I even added fake DNA." He looked at her, surprised. "Smart. I'm royalty. Lies are half my education." Jace chuckled, but it didn't last long. His hand brushed the edge of the armor near his chest. It still hummed faintly, but different now, like it was waiting for something. "We're heading toward the Cradle of Cinders," she said. "That's where the second flame beacon is rumored to be. It was sealed by the Starpriests during the last war, and no one's touched it since, no one sane." The glider dipped low over a canyon rim. Below, rivers of black lava bubbled under a cracked crust. Jagged spikes of metal and glass stretched out of the earth like alien bones. As they landed near a collapsed tower, something strange happened. The armor peeled itself off Jace's arm and formed a small disk of golden light. Thalira stepped back. "That's new." The disk floated toward the ruins and then shot downward through a narrow crack. Without thinking, Jace followed. Thalira sighed and climbed in after him. The tunnel spiraled deep underground. The further they moved, the more unnatural the walls became, smooth metal lined with strange carvings and lights that flickered to life as they passed. It wasn't just a ruin, it was a ship, buried, dead, ancient. A ship built by the flame-bearers. At the core of the chamber sat a chair of black crystal. In front of it, 3 staves floated in a triangle, each glowing faintly. The disk of light from Jace's armor hovered between them, absorbing their energy. "I think we just found the second beacon," Jace whispered. Thalira touched one of the staves. It pulsed, and an image appeared in the air, hundreds of flame-bearers in formation. Standing before a massive throne, a voice spoke from the chair. "Flameburn, if you reach this place, know that unity has failed. The bloodlines are shattered. The enemy has evolved. Only a hybrid can awaken what remains." Jace frowned. "A hybrid?" Thalira looked at him. "That's you." The room began to change. The walls melted into motion, revealing star charts and warning symbols. A message blinked repeatedly. "Awaken Core 2, ready." Suddenly, the ground shook. A low rumble echoed through the structure. "Was that you?" she asked. Jace shook his head. "No, that wasn't me." A hole opened in the far wall and something crawled through. It had no face, no skin, just wires and armor. Twisted pieces of soldiers melted together. It dragged a rusted blade, sparks flying with every step. Thalira stepped back. It's a reclaimer. Jace raised an eyebrow. That a good thing? No, it's a machine, built to destroy anyone who touches flame tech without a bloodlink. Jace turned back to the message on the wall. But I have a bloodlink, not to it. That beacon belongs to the warriors who stayed behind when the flame-bearers fled. They weren't part of the pact. The reclaimer charged. Jace ran forward, armor snapping back into place in a flash of gold. His blade formed instantly, just in time to block the creature's heavy strike. Sparks flew as metal screamed against metal. The reclaimer was relentless. Its moves were precise, robotic, unfeeling. Jace blocked another blow, spun behind it, and drove his blade into its side. It didn't scream. It didn't bleed. It just kept moving. I need to shut it down, Thalira shouted. How? There's a failsafe, she said, pointing to a console. But it needs a royal code, my father's. Jace ducked a spinning kick and slammed the reclaimer into the wall. Then fake it. She placed her palm on the console. I'm not him, but I am his daughter. Let's see if it recognizes the blood. The console scanned her. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the machine froze. The staves stopped glowing. The image vanished. The reclaimer dropped its weapon and collapsed into a pile of metal and dust. Jace caught his breath. That was close. Thalira wiped sweat from her brow. Too close. The disk of golden light returned and embedded itself back into Jace's armor. The humming returned stronger now, like a second voice had joined the first. Jace stared at the dark chair in the middle of the room. He didn't sit in it. He didn't need to. The chair whispered one final message when the third flame rises. The gate will open, and the enemy will come through. They climbed out of the ruin and stepped into the fading daylight. The sky above was quiet but far away. Something shimmered just beyond the horizon. Only one beacon left, Jace said, and one final test, Thalira replied. But neither of them saw the black drone watching from the cliffs. It turned and vanished into the sky toward the Emperor, toward the enemy, toward war. The fortress was floating, held high above the planet by invisible force columns, pulsing like a heartbeat in the sky. Clouds circled its base like torn silk. Jace stood at the edge of the landing platform, the final beacon glowing beneath his armor. The third and last flame had called him here. The gate was about to open, and something was waiting on the other side. Thalira stepped up beside him, wind whipping her dark cloak around her. This is it, she said softly, the citadel of the first gate. No one's been inside since the end of the Flame War. Then it's time someone did. He stepped forward, and the platform's doors opened on their own. No guards, no machines, just silence thick and watchful. They walked through empty halls of polished black stone, the walls alive with whispers, the past echoing with every footstep. Symbols began glowing as they passed, strange patterns, half alive. Jace's armor resonated with each one. Every part of him was being scanned, tested, accepted. He could feel it. The gate knew him now. They entered a chamber with no ceiling. Above them, stars hung like lanterns. In the center of the floor stood a spiral pattern etched into silver glass. The moment Jace stepped onto it, his armor locked him in place. Thalira reached for him, but energy surged between them, throwing her back gently. Jace, I'm okay, he said, his voice steady, though inside his chest, his heart was pounding. The chamber responded. Light poured from the spiral first. Gold, then crimson, then a deep burning blue. Jace's body lifted into the air. His mind spun. Memories not his own crashed into him. He saw the original flame-bearers kneeling before a throne of fire. He saw the moment they sealed the enemy. Beyond the edge of the stars, he saw their fear, their hope, and finally, he saw himself standing at the center of it all. But the vision broke when something shattered above. The stars twisted, the air turned black, and the gate opened, not slowly, not quietly, but with a scream that shook the heavens. Darkness spilled through like water breaking a dam. Ships made of bone and shadow slipped through the tear in space. Creatures roared as they flew downward, toward the world below. The enemy had come. Thalira stood, her voice shaking. You opened the gate, why would it let them in? Jace's feet touched the ground again. His armor now blazed with 3 beacons' energy, every inch of it glowing with power. It's not the gate that lets them in. he said. It's the one who claims it. A figure stepped through the gate behind him, the crowned shadow. The same one he had fought in the ruins, but now stronger, clearer. It stood tall, cloaked. In black fire, its voice like a storm. I knew you'd find the beacons, Spark. That's why I let you. Jace narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? I could never open the gate, the creature said. Only the chosen could, only. The blood could. So I waited for you to do it. Realization hit like a hammer. Jace had done exactly what the enemy needed. He had gathered the keys, lit the flames, unlocked the final seal. You tricked me, Jace whispered. No, the creature replied, stepping closer. I used you. The same way your ancestors used the flame for power, for control. Now, it belongs to me. Thalira raised her weapon, but the creature waved its hand and shattered it midair. Run, Jace told her. I'm not leaving, run. She hesitated, then turned and vanished into the smoke as the chamber trembled around them. Jace faced the crowned shadow alone. The creature raised a blade formed of black void. Jace's armor responded with a weapon of burning light. The two charged. Their clash cracked the floor, shattered the walls. They fought like storms colliding, pure fury and fire. Every hit sent shockwaves through the air. But Jace had changed. He wasn't just a soldier now. He was the bearer of three flames, the heir to something older than war. The battle shook the skies. Outside, Thalira emerged from the fortress and saw the enemy ships falling toward her people. Panic rose in her chest, but then she saw something. Brighter than all the stars, a column of fire rose from the citadel, and at its center, a human. Jace burst from the fortress like a comet, his blade driving through the crowned shadow's chest. The creature howled as light poured out of it, breaking its form apart. You are not the flame. It screamed. No, Jace whispered. I'm something new, with one final pulse of energy. Jace released all three beacons' power in a single burst. The sky split in half. The enemy fleet caught in the wave turned to ash. The gate collapsed on itself, sealing with a sound like thunder in reverse. Silence fell. The wind died, and Jace floated gently to the ground. Thalira ran to him. He was breathing. Barely. The armor cracked and faded around him, turning to dust. You did it, she whispered. Jace smiled weakly. Tell your people. They have another chance now. Then everything went dark. He woke days later, not in a cell, not in a tomb, but in a field of glowing grass, under open stars. Thalira sat beside him. You're a hero now, she said. No, he whispered, sitting up. I'm just the one who lit the fire. She smiled. You weren't supposed to be part of our story, she said softly. Maybe, he replied, but maybe your story needed a spark. And as they looked to the stars, far above the healed skies of Yithra, a new flame shimmered quietly in the distance, watching, waiting, ready.